Greetings, my name is Barbara E. Ringrose. I'm the founder of W.O.W, Women Optimizing Women. You can view our website at wowwomenus.com. W.O.W is about supporting women in business, no matter where they're starting out in a new business as a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, if they're in government work or the corporate arena, or if they're working at a nonprofit or they started a nonprofit. We look at ages from right out of high school all the way into retirement. We're very diverse in our occupations, a lot of different members and occupations at W.O.W. We'd like for you to join us. Please take time to look at our website. Again, that's wowwomenus.com. And today I'm meeting with Rita Palmer. Rita is a new W.O.W member, relatively new W.O.W member. She's starting a business which is very dynamic, very complex, and it's about parent and child estrangement. That's the focus of everything. But from talking to you, Rita, it's much more involved than that. So if you could introduce yourself to the people that are viewing today and talk to us about what you do.
My name is Rita Palmer. I am a parent-child estrangement coach. And so the reason I got into this particular area is because, well, just for a little backdrop, I worked at the Pentagon for most of my career as an IT specialist, and I was part of 9/11. And after what happened at 9/11, I noticed that, well, several of my colleagues died. I wasn't in the office at that morning because I was visiting my mom, who was in the hospital. And and a lot of my other colleagues got burned really badly. But I noticed that when we all came back to work, well, not all of us, some of us came back to work, that there was a difference in the mental, emotional way that they operated because of the physical and, of course, emotional trauma of 9/11. But I kind of, that is where I started getting into trying to understand human behavior, etc. But at any rate, years later, I retired as a program manager with the headquarters Marine Corps at the Pentagon. And although I did very, very well on my job and my career, what was happening in my own family, in my own home, of course I was a single mom, my family were going through a lot of upheavals, and imagine how shocked and heartbroken I was to know that on the one hand I'm retiring for a beautiful career, and on the other hand my children want nothing to do with me. And so for the last over 10 years or so, I just poured myself into studying and getting every book I can and studying about family dynamics, strategic interventions, philosophy, psychology. I just went to many seminars and got certifications and all of that because I wanted to reconnect my family. That was like the most important thing in my life. And I am so thankful that right now I have a beautiful relationship with my oldest daughter, and my second daughter, I have a significantly growing, beautiful relationship with her. It's not as beautiful as my oldest daughter, but it's getting there. So I decided to go into estrangement coaching because with all the studies that I've done, I've distilled years and decades of information into tools and strategies that I use to help my clients reconcile, reconnect, build a bridge to reconnecting with their adult children. So I really am thankful for this opportunity to sit here with you.
You're just talking about this. My goodness, sorry to cut you off there. Your background working at the Pentagon, what happened at 9/11 on a personal level, how that affected you in the workplace, your trauma with your family, with your two daughters, and then pouring yourself into something. And sometimes education isn't something out of a textbook. Education is maybe our experiences and then how we relate to those experiences, our understanding of those experiences. And then you decided, I need to know more. I need to get some certifications. I need to do some more research because I've seen the trauma in life, in my own life. And now you're taking that to help others. You're becoming successful, not just within your own family. And in my opinion, I do believe that change starts with self, and then you radiate to family, and then you radiate out to others. And you are on that track to help others. And we so need this. Our society needs you, Rita.
Yeah. So I love what you said, that it starts with you as the individual, and then it radiates to your family, and then to others. So when I was at the Pentagon, I worked with a lot of young Marines, and one of the things I noticed too was that a lot of young Marines died by suicide every year because of, also PTSD that comes from trauma and stuff. So yes, I had to, based on, once I came home and my children wanted nothing to do with me. And of course, because of the panic and fear, and I've worked so hard. And the reason I was shocked about the estrangement is because I felt as though, after 9/11, with all the critical help that was needed, I just poured myself into being part of putting ourselves back together as a nation. And so I spent a lot of time at my job rather than being with my children and at home. And the way I was raised with the traditional value of, parents need to be honored and respectful and respected, and, children need to obey. I didn't understand that, that my children really needed me to understand them, to really hear them, to really feel them and see their needs. I just figured, I give them, providing a home for them to live, there's food, and a lot of parents feel that way. We work hard and we're giving you things that our parents never was able to give to us. So I don't see why now you're upset with me. So that is one of the things I had to study, understanding human behavior, and I had to start with me.
Right?
Barbara, I had to start with me. Why do I have these beliefs? Why do I behave the way I do?
Right. And we talked before about this, Rita, and you were talking about it's generational. Yeah. And you can see throughout history, regardless of how far back you go, that you can see a lot of the family history, the familial things, whether it's abusive behaviors or some significantly worse behaviors, how they trickle through the family of generation after generation after generation. And then it takes someone like yourself to break that generational habit or that mindset. And we have to understand that at the end of the day, it's not about the things. We can have lots of different things in our life. And what is important is the relationships that we have and how we interact with our people that are close to us. And then how they go out about their day interacting with people that they're associated with. And that's where the true growth comes, taking the time to invest in our children as opposed to investing in other things. And you're doing that. And we need, like I said before, we need your help.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for those kind words. I appreciate it. And your understanding about generational patterns and stuff that could be handed down from one generation to the other. Look, the culture has changed, and we've, there's difference between the traditional way of raising our families, and now the young people are more interested in being individuals, being seen as individuals, not just part of, I'm just a child of this person or a son or daughter of this person. So there are different pathways to estrangement. And one, of course, is different values and beliefs and lifestyle. Now we're seeing families that are same-sex families or more single-parent families and stuff. So there's just that dynamic. Kids are estranged because they they grew up with different communication styles, and parents didn't really know how to communicate with their children, and there's been unresolved conflicts.
So, of course, when I grew up, I was in a family of six of us children. Mom and dad, of course, were local. We stayed local. I know moving, there's a lot of stressors. You talked about stressors before, whether it's in the workplace or it's in the family.
Yeah.
That these are all things, we're all individuals, and yet we're all part of a unit.
Yeah.
And as we grow through life, as we mature, sometimes we view each other as that sibling we had when we were 9, 10 years old, and we hang on to those things. And that continues with that estrangement, that divide, making people feel almost justified for not having those relationships. So we've talked about what maybe skill sets that you had, and something you might want to mention about your success with your daughter, and maybe other people that are looking to reunite with their children. What can they use, and what tools did you use to get there?
Yeah, what a great question. So first of all, let's go back a little bit on why children estrange from their parents. And I mentioned a little bit earlier about the culture has changed, and our values and behaviors and what we believe. We want to hand those down to our children, but the values and behaviors and the beliefs have changed. So there are different pathways to estrangement, unresolved conflicts, generational patterns that have been handed down, mental health issues and addictions.
Right.
Then you have family dynamics. Let's say in a divorced situation where one parent will badmouth another parent,
Right.
and create more estrangement. There are
The daughter-in-laws.
daughter-in-laws and sons-in-laws that are like, you need to choose me instead of your parents for whatever reason that could be. There are communication styles where, if there's poor communication within that family, there are misunderstandings that never get healed.
Right.
And so when a child gets of age and they estrange them, they leave the home, then it's all of that has accumulated, and so they just don't want to reconcile until they've healed and their parents have healed. So that was a great question about what has helped me to reconcile with my daughter.
Right.
And so first of all, like we talked earlier, I had to take a look at my own beliefs and values. I had to do self-inquiry. Why do I believe what I believe? And why do I want to force that belief upon my children? So there is that, and then I had to take a look at, was I really listening to my children? So I had to understand and practice active listening. What are they really saying to me? Okay, so they're angry with me. I needed to be able to decode what they're really needing from me. And be respectful and understand that they have different perspectives than I do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes,
and so,
they do.
Yes, and so I needed to respect that. They're young people, so instead of me just pushing my traditional value of, listen, you just need to obey, you just need to fit into this mold, they're individuals. So I needed to listen to them, be respectful, stop criticizing them, really hear them. And I actually had to, get professional help.
I can appreciate that. I know we had a situation here in my family, and one of the words that kept being repeated over and over again was listening, and the other thing was validation. Everybody wants to feel validated, although I think the validation piece can go way too far, and that kind of keeps that torch burning, because I want to constantly be validated. I want it to constantly be about me, but it can't necessarily, as you're saying, be about me.
You know, setting boundaries, understanding yourself, and setting proper boundaries, you know, the parents, but also allowing the children to really hear them and let them learn to set boundaries too, because they're not only living in this home, they're going out into the world, they're in school.
That's right.
And they should be able to learn how to set boundaries. Now, if you're just telling them, this is the way you need to do, this is what you need to say, this is what you need to, and they're just following as puppets when they go out in the world, when they go to school, when they go out at the workplace, they don't know how to set boundaries because they've just been told to fit into this mold all the time.
So communication goes both ways. I say that all the time. I wrestle with boundaries because I think of boundaries like, this is a fence, this is a property I own, and you can't come into it, and I'm going to stay within it. If we set our boundaries that they're too rigid, if we don't recognize that the boundaries will change over time, and they're subject to change, much like the ocean changes or anything else in nature changes, these are the things that we have to say, okay, these boundaries work today, but they may not work forever. And when I go into the workplace, I have to understand the dynamic in the family. Although it's different in the workplace, I can extrapolate. I can pull those experiences from the family into the workplace, because my parents now have not just given me a directive, but they've allowed me to also listen to them and to think for myself, which is very important.
So I love what you said about boundaries kind of being a wall, you know. So setting boundaries it does have the advantages and disadvantages, because it means you cannot come into my space, but it also means that I cannot.
Right.
Because I've built this boundary around myself, right? So I'm talking about conscious boundaries, and what I mean by that is, do you know your essence? Do you know yourself? Are you coming from a place of love? If somebody says, do this or be this, is that who I truly am? And in setting boundaries, you have to understand that, you know, with some kids, they say no when they mean yes. They say yes when they mean no.
Exactly.
So in understanding who I am and who I feel, that's the place where you set the boundary. I don't really want to do this, Mommy, or I don't want to do this person I work with. And so it's okay for me to say no.
That's a good point. My daughter was talking about that to me last night. We were out to dinner, and she mentioned, she's my oldest daughter, firstborn, and she mentioned how important it was for her to find the word no, and that has been very helpful to her. And I think a lot of people have that problem, is when to say no, how to say no. Yeah. And in the family, when you say no, some people look at that as a form of rejection. One of the things that you mentioned to me earlier was about letters. How when you're dealing with estrangement, that perhaps you need to find an alternative to communicate with your loved one. Could you explain a little bit more about that when you meant letters?
Absolutely. So in talking with a lot of my clients, we see that they've written, the adult child has estranged maybe for months or probably years, and they do sit down to write there's no contact at all. So they do sit down to write a letter. And they've read these letters from me. Rita, do you mind? Do you think this is a good letter that I'm sending to my child? And I look at these long letters very often, and parents are coming from a place of such incredible love. And they want their children to understand where they're coming from and stuff. But when I read these letters, sometimes they have guilt tripping in it. I've done all these things, sweetheart. I love you so much. That's why I've done all these things. Or they come up from a place of defensiveness and explaining themselves why they did what they did. No, they're coming from a place. And first, let me say, Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem at the same level it was created. You have to come from a different mindset. You mentioned mindset earlier about, healing yourself first and then up-leveling that mindset. So when this child reads this letter, if you send that letter and the child reads that letter, they can just be triggered by all these things that you're just saying to them. So they really don't want to reconnect. Okay, so the amends letter should be a letter that says, and I usually say, get professional help or get help first before you write a letter. And the letter should be a short letter.
Right. Much like a resume. Direct, to the point, with the basics.
To the point.
Right.
I love you very much, and I am taking responsibility for how I've hurt you. And I want you to know that I'm getting the help that I need to make the changes I need to make in my life. And you may want to say this too, and this is very controversial, even with other therapists. You may say, I appreciate the fact that you have estranged yourself and moved away so that you could find yourself and you could heal. And you may want to say that. And then you end it with, I love you. And in your own time, please, this is my telephone number. Please contact me so we can chat. So it should be short. It should be concise. And the other thing I tell people is, listen, you cannot force somebody else to feel the same way that you feel about them. Give your adult child time to think about things, to heal before they can make their way back. And just be in a place where you're healing yourself.
Right.
And you're becoming better, but you have built this bridge plank by plank so this child could walk over and come back and reconnect.
Well, Rita, coming from a background of a lot of different personalities and challenges and estrangement, myself experiencing those things, it is a horrible thing to grow through. And sometimes I think somebody has to be the adult. Someone's acting like a child, and as adults, we forget that our adult children are adults now, and we have to talk to them on a different level. And think about what we're writing. And my daughter had also mentioned to me about the word but. And when you were talking about that lengthy letter, it had a lot of buts in there, the defensiveness that we use. Go back to the basics. I love you. I want to talk to you. I want to communicate with you. I'm here for you. On your own time, I respect what you're doing and your choices. I can appreciate those things. Those are all key elements in that letter that you're talking about. And communicating and just starting from very basics with them.
Yeah, because remember, the reason, in talking with adult children who are estranged, they did not take the decision to estrange lightly. It's been years of feeling unheard, of feeling criticized, of feeling rejected, of their parents not understanding where they're coming from. And so that is the reason why they've estranged, to just find themselves, to heal, to grow, and to identify themselves as themselves, So yes, you can't force them to want to come back to you in your time limit. Let them find themselves and just be that person and enjoy yourself. Practice self-care. I tell parents, instead of sitting around grieving and just hoping and praying and gritting their teeth and waiting for their child to come back, enjoy your life. Take care of yourself. Heal your own woundedness.
Right. They'll be in a better place, won't they, when their child comes knocking on their door or ringing on their phone. What is the best way for people to reach out to you, Rita? Because I really do feel this is much needed in our society. I feel it. I felt it in the past. I work very hard at having open communications with my children, my family members. What's the best way for people to reach out to you, Rita, and get help?
So I do have a meetup group online. It's called Navigating Parent-Child Estrangement. So that's one way of getting in touch with me. My telephone number is 240-278-4494. I'm a parent-child estrangement coach. And, join my Zoom calls. Get in touch with me. I'd be so happy to help. So I really thank you for putting this group together. It's so meaningful, so much needed. I've met some incredible women entrepreneurs that on the site, and made a lot of lifelong connections.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you doing this.
And you're a part of all of that. And it was so nice to meet with you initially, and then for you and I to consult with one another.
Yes.
You were on one of our WOW virtual Monday calls, and you spoke up at that call. You used the chat to communicate with other people, and they with you. So it starts off with just that conversation. And thank you for that. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Thanks, Rita. I think it's great what you're doing. I think our society, and any society, needs to do this. We can see all around the world these estrangement situations are taking place. You know, a lot of changes that are happening. Technology can do that to you. It can also, you can embrace it and use it to your advantage. And I think you have an opportunity for people to do that. I'm Barbara E. Ringrose, the founder of WOW, Women Optimizing Women. WOWwomenus.com is the website. You can find other WOW members like Rita on our WOW website. Please, we want the pleasure of your company. It's a great way for ladies to get together, learn a lot of different things, not just about the other ladies, but also about themselves. And that is what WOW offers. Barbara E. Ringrose, founder. Stay well.